I think our greatest loss this year was the writer Nigel Neal, who is the creator, most famously, of Quatermass, a huge influence on me and on many other writers. Nigel Neal was the great pioneer of TV drama. To this day, not really given the credit he's due. It's become a bit of a cliche to say it, but the Quatermass experiment kind of landed like a rocket into the nation's expectations of what television could give them. It appears to be a slightly hokey sci-fi idea, but at its essence, it's a very human story.
Now, here's the wife of one of them, Mrs.
Caroon.
Mrs. Caroon. If you don't mind my asking, what was your farewell message?
I think I said, take care of yourself, darling, and don't forget to bring me something back.
And then, by the time of the third one, Quatermass the Pit, the most famous one, they find a 5 million-year-old Martian spacecraft, which is covered in what appear to be sort of Kabbalistic symbols.
This is no freak, nothing freakish about it. A consistent but unknown species.
And you see its echoes from right through, obviously, Doctor Who, Stargate, virtually everything that has a lost civilization is completely in hock to Quatermass in the Pit. And it's one of those things that now it seems so familiar you can't believe it hadn't been done before, but it hadn't. He did a play for the BBC in 1968 called The Year of the Sex Olympics. When Big Brother began on television, I remember kind of wanting to talk to someone and say, has anyone not noticed what's happening? A bright executive comes up with the idea of putting some people on an island and watching them 24 hours a day on camera.
They're watching my show now, see? See by their faces? Put them off food, put them off sex, or... Most of them got no work to do, all autoed for them. Just sit. Dead by 35.
He was an incredible prophet, and therefore without honour. In the 70s, Neil did a series for ITV called Beast. The one I remember very well is Baby, about this which is familiar in a jar. It's about a vet and his pregnant wife move into this cottage. Obviously what's happened at some stage in the history of the house is a witch has put a curse on the land. It starts to give you this creeping unease, and you know, because the baby's fine, but that something's going to go terribly wrong.
Peter? I don't know if we...
Oh, gee!
Oh, God. It's something dead.
Because he's a vet, Simon McCorkindale wants to examine it, but his wife knows it's wrong.
It's more like a little pig, but I'm not sure that it was ever actually born.
And they've got the builders in, that's why they're knocking the wall down. The older builder, and he's a kind of totemic Neil figure. He's the one who knows. He's just old enough to have some sort of link to the past.
It'd have purpose.
You mean bad purpose?
Most like.
You realise when you watch it again that he doesn't actually say what it is at all, but it's just a series of impressions that make you feel slightly nauseous. And he says a thing like that, it would have had to have been suckled.
A thing like that? It'd have been suckled, you know.
What?
Human suckling.
I watched that with my mum when I was about 10. We just sat there and felt sick. I think Nigel Neal's legacy is just kind of landscape-changing pieces of drama. Everyone in the industry owes him a huge debt. I really think a great man has passed, and we'll never see his like again.
2006 didn't have too many original ideas of its own, and consequently several things made a comeback this year. We've already seen the return of rave, Cold War intrigue, and most exciting of all, Scooby-Doo. Okay, so Torchwood wasn't actually a live-action remake of Scooby-Doo, it just felt that way. After all, it revolved around a gang of youngsters who spend all their time chasing monsters. The cartoon gang even had their own mystery machine to drive around in. Those lights are just ridiculous. If they really want to turn up looking stupid, they might as well stick an inflatable dick on the bonnet and have done with it. The main problem with Torchwood, apart from all the unnecessary aerial shots of Cardiff, was that while on the one hand it felt like a silly, breezy bit of escapism aimed at teenagers or possibly kids, on the other hand it was also jam-packed with visceral unpleasantness and lots of steamy anything goes shaggery. The end effect was weirdly jarring, a bit like watching an episode of Chucklevision with fighting and cum shots in it.
When was the last time you came so hard and so long you forgot where you are?
Oh, that's easy. It was Remembrance Sunday. I was supposed to be helping out with it. Oh, you don't need to know this. Another comeback that wasn't technically a comeback was Robin Hood. The BBC subjected him to such a thorough modernising, the whole thing ended up looking like a cross between an Arctic Monkeys promo and a sort of sword and chainmail role-playing game, complete with location names whipping onto the screen like they were entering the start of a new level. What is this, Grand Theft Sherwood? The main problem really is that this Robin Hood's so young looking you half expect him to whip out a phone in the middle of every battle and start taking photos of it to put on his MySpace page. This year, ITV itself apparently died and then came back from the dead. After a string of high-profile mess-ups, it reached into its own past and dug up some well-loved treasures from yesteryear. Some of these were lowbrow things like Family Fortunes, which returned in an all-star format hosted by TV's village idiot Vernon Kay, and whose title sequence was possibly the single most idiotic cultural artefact mankind has yet produced. ITV also found time to revive some of their well-respected quality shows, such as the dark brooding crime serial Cracker, and the equally dark and equally brooding Prime Suspect. Helen Mirren returned as DCI Jane Tennyson, battling the bottle and a world full of made-up kids who find mobile phones more interesting than people in it.
Sitting in the kitchen.
Was she with someone?
No.
So she was on her own?
Oi, oi. Poor old Tennyson spent most of the show gnawing the sandwich of misery and washing it down with the booze of depressed policewoman. Adding to her problems were a dad at death's door and a sidekick who sounded evenly like Todd Carty.
Got Coxie on the line, finally making his way through all that CCTV footage.
And?
Tony Sturdy took a weird route home.
The whole thing was extremely well crafted, but unrelentingly miserable, consisting of one leaden slab of despair piled on top of another.
Foxes have been at her. Fingers and arms, mainly.
Yeah, well, those are the best bits.
She may only have been 14, but there was a perfectly formed fetus growing inside her. There it is.
No, I'm only kidding, it's a bucket of tomatoes, really.
Police have charged a 42-year-old man with having unlawful sex with a 14-year-old girl who was found murdered last week.
I think Aunt Is Bloom is about to start on BBC One. The world of Prime Suspect is so bleak you can't even go for a shit-in piece. Anyway, assuming you made it to the end without killing yourself, Prime Suspect was one of the better programmes of the year and proof that ITV is still more than capable of making quality programmes that command a big audience. So yes, well done ITV. God, I'm a patronising shit. I hate me. Okay, that's the end of our review of the year. Hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be back in a few weeks with more of the same, and by more of the same I mean this. Reports about the ghastly backside of television, lots of reviews where I sit grumbling in my hovel, and lots of great contributors like the fantastic US stand-up Doug Stanhope.
Sometimes I just watch TV just to hate what I'm watching. You wouldn't watch opera, but if they made Battle of the Operas, you'd pick an opera and call a 900 up. I won't vote for my opera. Get your opera off TV. Bring my opera back. I'm a big opera fan.